Alright, welcome back. This is going to be an overview of my updated Recce rifle, SPR, DMR, light precision rifle. So I have done an overview of this rifle before. I'll link that video in the description to this one. But I've made some evolutions to this rifle as time has gone on. I figure I'd give you guys an update and show you some things that I think are very effective for a platform like this and some ways you can maximize the effectiveness of your rifle that is semi-automatic, accurized, and in 5.56. So the biggest thing I've done so far is I changed the optic. Previously I had a Night Force 2.5 to 10 by 24 on here. It's a great scope, but it has some limitations. The first being that it is second focal plane, so that reticle never shrinks or grows. It's always the same size. So your holes are only accurate at max power. That's a limitation. So I switched over to the loopholed 3 to 18. So this is the Mark 6. I've used this in the past. I really like this optic. Is it a little overpowered for a 5.56 gun? Potentially. However, I think the feature set's really good on it, and I'm very familiar with it. So this scope has the Horus Tremor 3 reticle. I'll drop that in the picture here. So you can see it has a really good mill reticle, has a nice Christmas tree, and those dots are going to be wind holds. So there's plenty of great videos online explaining how to use that reticle. And once you understand what you can do with it, really like the world is yours. So I'll typically run this rifle between 8 and maybe 14 power. A good rule of thumb is 2 powers per yard line. So if you're at the 100, you want it on 2. If you're at the 1,000, you would want it on 20. So this one goes up to 18. So if, or rather when I shoot this rifle out to 1,000, we'll be on 18 and we'll probably dial. Speaking of dialing, great thing about this optic, very, very simple zero stop. So this button on the rear, that is what is locking my elevation turret. All I do, press it in, and I can make all my 1/10 of a mil adjustments. We see that little tab coming up. That shows me I'm not at 0. When I finish shooting, I gotta displace, back to 0, zero stop, tab is flush. Everything is great. So I really, really like that. We have capped windage, of course. Opposite side, we do have parallax adjustment, and we have illuminated reticle. So I really do like this optic as a magnified optic. Does it fit better on, say, a 7.62 NATO or a 6.5 gun? Yep. However, it's always good to have more power if you need it. Because it's first focal plane, I can shoot it, down at 9x, 8x, whatever I want, and I'm still good to go with this optic on a 5.56 rifle. Mounted up a red dot. This is the LaRue mount. So I had to take some material off the forward edge to make sure it cleared the bell here. It's aluminum, so a file went right through it. There's no problem. And there's plenty of meat in that mount, so I have no issues with it. I zero my top mounted red dot at 100 as well. And I like to put it on top for a rifle like this, especially because what I will do is I'll keep it dialed up. So right now it's on about 16 power, and I can scan my sector, find my target through the red dot, and then put my head right down into the magnified optic. So I'm not coming in and out of magnification. I'm just using a quick red dot. I can get talked on, and then boom, I'm right there in my magnified optic. So this optics package is really the big change to this rifle for me. Other things I changed are very minor. So I updated my dope card on the stock, and I brought it out to 1,000 yards. And I have meter conversions on the card as well. So anyone, in my absence can grab this rifle and they know what the holds are for 77 grain Mark 262 ammunition in this gun. So very easy user interface for any shooter. I've kept my sling points kind of like in my standard, so on the outside of the stock and all the way forward. And then I also have a sling point built in to the rear of the handguard. So this is the LaRue handguard. They have 2 QD points, one on either side. So I can adjust that point as needed with my sling. and I have a lot of adjustability within this sling as well. The 2-point adjustable is the way to go. I like having 2 options for where to put the forward end of my sling, and that lets me do pretty much anything I would ever need to do with this rifle and the sling. Another thing that I did that is a very, very minor upgrade, but something that anyone can do, and I think it's really useful, is on my quad rail. If you have a quad rail, right, you can do this. I added rail covers that obscure portions of the rail where I won't put an accessory. So I have 2 positions for my bipod. I have one all the way forward where it is now. I have this section in the middle. So I leave this section open and I cover the rest of it with the rail cover. That way, in the dark, under stress, in the rain, when I'm cold, whatever it is, I can easily find that spot and put my bipod there, my arc rail adapter, whatever it is. That's the only piece that's open. I can't make a mistake because those are covered. This same technique can be used on the top rail for your night vision accessories that go forward, right? You can also do it on the rear with rifles that you mount magnifiers to. So these little Picatinny rail covers, these little skeletonized kind of ladder pieces, they're really useful for just blocking off sections, making sure you force your accessory into the correct spot. The last thing that I've done with this rifle that's new since the last video is I just added a new coat of paint. Nothing too crazy there. I do have a painting video on this channel as well. I'll link that in the description. What I do with these, essentially I mask off the things that I don't want painted, like the trigger, the optic obviously, and then I also mask off some of the markings and the QD points, things where I don't want paint to get in. Pretty simple there. I do a base coat of the lightest color, so the tan, and then I do some broad slashes of brown and some of this darker green color you can see. And I did like a 3-to-1 brown to green ratio here. Then I'll just kind of lightly dust it with the opposite color over to kind of blend in the paint so that my pattern isn't too dramatic, but it still is a good micro and macro pattern. And then I'll just kind of handle the rifle and get off some paint, off some excess portions like the selector on the opposite side, the bolt catch, things like that. I have shot this rifle out past 1,000 yards. It's been with me since about 2014, so I've done a lot of good stuff with this. I really encourage you to kind of take out that 5.56 gun, stretch its legs out. I don't think you got to get 6 arc or 6.5 Grinnell, whatever the new hotness is. I think some 77 grain rifle like this and the opportunity to train are really the best bang for your buck. Any questions, guys, let me know. I'm always here to help. Thanks.